Maybe she was 92.
She was a year behind me. I'm pretty sure she was a year behind me. Yeah, which is what my sister was.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, but Jenny was the little sister.
Did you graduate with Bucky?
Well, Bucky graduated from Woodbury.
Oh.
Every year. Honestly, it says he held me back. Yeah, she graduated in 89 with her brother.
I gotcha. But you were 88?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Bucky would have been 88.
Right. But he went through middle school and stuff here, or how?
Middle school, he went through Culbreth, and then never went to high school. Yeah, ended up, I think, ninth grade was there.
Got it.
And then he went to CG for a semester, basically failed out.
Yeah.
He hated it.
Yeah.
No, I get it. So Dr. Winfield got him in as an athletic exception to wrestle. He was up at like 4 a.m. But he was in Carolina.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, let me go.
Yeah.
Hey, so at 5:15 I like to watch CBS Sunday.
Who's speaking?
Professor about the history of Asian.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I just came from you back had some blood drawn. Yeah, I know.
All right.
Yeah, every now I'm a little concerned with my family doctor.
All right. Take a chair right here.
Okay. Well, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Where are you sitting there?
No, I got
Yeah. Of course.
Oh, you know what? I got So they're still around? I've never seen them. They're off ice skate.
I use that term very loosely.
That's
Hello, my friend.
Hey, where you been? I've been
Yeah, let's go.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing 1, 2, 3.
I love that place. And then every guy got a woman. Working in there.
You're not eating today? Are you eating?
Yes, I'm just kind of waiting. You know, I always eat so early. I'm kind of waiting for people to come. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, makes sense.
Up there?
Target's gonna do that.
Yes, sir. Well, you take care of me. It's a cycle of life.
They play bike cards now.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing 1, 2, 3. Hey, Cliff. Cliff. Keith, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Good afternoon, folks. Are y'all good? Sure. Great. Oh, good. Got all about it. Up there. Yeah, exactly. Hey there, how you doing?
How are you?
You been busy? Go? Yeah. Man, I was in trouble last night, wasn't it? Oh my gosh, it was a spread. Man, that was, if you catered, that would have been really pricey meal. That was good. Been down the beach a lot?
Yeah. Come here next weekend. Yeah.
I saw Edward out at the club the other night, Edward and Margaret.
Okay.
He said, I'm going to Atlanta if they get through. I said, well, they have a big buzzsaw team called Old Misty. That's a tough one. But I think they're up for it.
I tried the volunteer.
It's very difficult to get from here. I figured I'd come sit next to you.
Yeah. Right.
Hey, Linda, how are you? Well, that was a spread last night, wasn't it? Unbelievable. Well, it was the CQ house. Oh, you're going that way, okay. I got enough for that table.
Okay.
Good. I think we're covered.
Yeah, we are covered. We're good.
How was last week?
I was not here.
Oh,
I was doing
yeah.
some training.
Oh, yeah, God, I was gone too.
Okay.
Looked like a good. Who was it last week? Blue?
Yeah.
Blue. Looked like he's always a good adjustment.
So it's supposed to help you better.
Yeah, I've got TV and particle things. Yeah.
Hey, Linda. You are all set? Just put this like yes, team is up this week.
I see.
Light up. How are you? So much. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Give me a hug. Light up. That's so special. I mean, we have look at yes. Thank you for that.
One of the founding
I've got to read this Yeah, I'm telling you. I mean, they lost it's weird. Never thought yes, I'll put up on the tree and do that. I'll have one mic here. Well, I'm going to put the other mic.
Did you complete your U-boat?
Not yet.
Oh, is it? Okay. Were you for or against budget?
Oh, wow. Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. We don't have much furniture yet. Some of the house building. Yeah, we have been out for
I call her Mr.
No.
Yeah, I will try to but you know Probably, yes.
Okay. Hi. James Chappel, nice to meet you. Oh, hi. Well, you're the second person that's introduced me as president. Oh, 2 steps down. I see. Okay. All right. Okay. Nice to meet you. Thank you for having me. Hi. James Chappel. Hi. Thanks. You said that, so it's a tight 20 minutes. Yes. Okay, got it. Okay. That's true. All right. And will someone else for the Q&A? Okay. And you'll walk around with the mic. Okay. Okay. And someone else will say like, we have time for one more question or something. That's you. Okay. All right. Okay, got it. That's a great tradition. We should do that at my department. Okay.
Close to it like this.
Thank you so much. No, sure, I'll take it. So how did you get involved in Rotary Club? So you do that's incredible. Yeah, you usually have but get yourself some lunch.
Okay.
Yes.
Over there?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'll join you guys in a minute.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, thank
Nice to meet you.
Same here, welcome. Right. So Jess? Oh wow. Yeah, wow. No, he got me a water. Thank you so much. Well, he's been recruiting me. I've been recruiting.
Oh, okay. Go, Jeff.
Well, he's the Durham chapter. Do they do all the chapters too?
Series or is that a unique chapter?
Jeff, you get the burger? You? Mike. Okay. like Boy Scouts, but but Picture and Scouts, that's like the way that they learn about,
Hello.
I guess word of mouth is probably the best thing.
Yeah, she had some
I use Twitter and Instagram. I use Twitter and Instagram, yeah. It's hard because even a lot of people my age have abandoned Facebook. A lot of people are abandoning Twitter and Instagram. So yeah, I don't know how you're supposed to reach people. Yeah, I genuinely, but it sounds like the downtown Durham one has 200 members. Yes. So you're reaching people somehow.
the right place.
Yes.
Yeah. You live in Chappel. Yeah, you like
I grew up in like
Oh, really? Yeah, like around Chappel. Yeah. It was the Chappel and everything else.
Yeah, this is
I had a sixth grader too. Do they like it?
I don't like it. Right inside.
Back to the point where I said
Good afternoon. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the East Chappel Rotary Club luncheon today. My name is Linda Sanders, and I have the privilege of being your Sergeant at Arms today. Yay, says Jim. Oh. Before we get started, may I ask if we have any guests that we'd like to have introduced? Yes, Alan.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Dr. Lee Barks from Tampa. She's in nursing and biomedical engineering.
Yeah. Welcome, Lee.
Yeah, we have Rebecca Priscilla. We heard about the student there, so welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm a DI consultant, so I need work.
Do we have any visiting Rotarians? No visiting Rotarians. Okay, anyone who would like to make an announcement or has an announcement to make? Karen.
Hey, tomorrow's a big day. Get out all your dead computers and ancient typewriters and even microwaves we've been learning. So we take almost anything, yeah. No plastic, no cardboard, no foil. Yes, we're in microwave. Yeah. Microwave is good.
Great, electronics are
happening tomorrow, Conroe High School parking lot, 1 to 4. If you have any questions, grab me or Tom or Teddy or Bob or Kenny after this meeting and ask a question.
Thank you. Peggy, you had something.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, is anybody thinking of going to the Rotary International Convention? It's in Calgary, June 21st. No, we're thinking of the district convention.
So anyone thinking about going to Rotary International?
As far as I know, Liz and I are the only ones going for one club. But it's a great opportunity. We may not be able to go to Canada.
Thank you. Well, please join me in our invocation. And this is one that some of you might find familiar that I have said in the past. We give thanks for the opportunity to be a Rotarian. Rotarians dig wells from which we will never drink. We vaccinate children we will never see. We restore eyesight for those we will never see. We build housing we will never live in. We educate children we will never know. We plant trees we will never sit under. We feed hungry people regardless of race or politics. We know real happiness, which, as Albert Schweitzer once said, can only be found by helping others. For this we give thanks. All right, so as Sergeant at Arms today, the topic, let me start the Fine Basket. So donations to the Fine Basket today will go to Porch, which, as many of you might know, is a nonprofit organization that feeds people with food insecurity, and actually started here in Chappel Hill 14 years ago. So dig deep for $1 to whatever matches the personal budgets. So today, what I'd like to do is take you all through some of the service projects and activities that our club is involved in. And I want to start off with a by the numbers chart. And I put up these numbers, and I would encourage you all to, shout out what these numbers might represent. Do I have any takers for the thousands? Litter bags, absolutely. Our club has filled thousands of bags with litter from our quarterly litter pickups. How about 12 times? Any takers? 12 times each year, we serve at the SEC Family House, and we served last night. How about scores? Oh, come.
Those were settled.
Those were settled, that's very good. Now, we have, in our youth programs, led by Lorenzo, we have supported scores of high schoolers and young students through RILA and other Rotary programs. Yes, Fred.
The lower right, Elon Musk.
The lower right, Elon Musk. Now, which?
625.
So 625.
Greater than.
No, you know what? $625,000 is the amount that this club has contributed to our teacher supply stores since we started teacher supply stores. How about 24? That's the age I was when I got married 4 years ago. No takers? Come on. 24. That is the number of houses, Habitat houses, that now have solar panels on them since this club took the initiative under Liz Hankey's leadership, Alan Young and Brian Keeler, to raise money to get solar panels that are actually saving the homeowners on average $750 a year in electrical bills.
All right.
So what are all of these wonderful service programs that we have that we're involved in? Well, this is just an example of some that are underway today. So you'll see the SECU Family House and our fearless leader. Where is our fearless leader? Dr. Joe Jenkins. Teacher supply store. This actually got started by Mike Clayton back in 2008, as I said. And last August, our president, who's not here today, Tim Smith, really led the charge to make that happen. Our litter pickups, well, we know who the queen of talking trash is. And then our youth programs that, Lorenzo, I don't know, how many years have you been leading our youth programs?
Scores.
Scores. I all scored 7 years ago. Solar on Habitat. We've got Bike Night, so Ed and Lyda have been leading Bike Night the last several years, where in conjunction with the Chappel Hill Service League, we donate no less than 125 bikes and helmets for children who might not otherwise have the opportunity to have bicycles. We've got our Habitat builds. And then, as Karen said, We've got our tech recycling, and we've got a nice event tomorrow. We also get involved in projects with other clubs. And so we did a building of beds for Sleep in Heavenly Peace a couple of years ago. And then we've got a couple of new service projects, and Bob Ostrom brought the one about Table. How can we maybe work with and support Table? And that is helping feed more children. I think, what, Bob, 1,100 children a week?
Yep.
Yeah. And then we're also starting a mentoring program working with the Rotaractors at UNC Chappel Hill. And I also put up the Rotary Fellows, because even though this isn't a service project, we do all have a wonderful opportunity to get involved and support the Rotary Fellows. So now I want to take you just on a quick journey of some of the pictures for each of these that I have. So this was at the Secu Family House last night, and it was oversubscribed. It was a full house. And a couple of wonderful pictures on the right. You've got to love the one with Erica Varna and her two daughters. They do a wonderful job of preparing desserts for almost every family house dinner that we have. And you know, we do this once each month. The lines were long. We have pictures from, you know, prior SECU family house events. And the one on the left is particularly interesting because here we have three guys, Dr. Joe, Dr. Saul Aronson, and my spouse. I think between the three of them, they have like 14 degrees, and they couldn't figure out how to extract the plastic cutlery. So this was kind of amusing. And then on the right, you'll see the young lady who has the Yale sweatshirt on. That is actually one of the interactors from the East Chapel Hill High School Interact Club that Lorenzo was so successful in getting kicked off 2 years ago and had like over 60 members shortly after they kicked it off. A few more pictures, a few more smiles. Then, as I said, just shifting gears to Teacher Supply Store, some pretty extraordinary results since 2008. We have supported thousands of teachers, and we have contributed over $625,000, which is really incredible and making a real difference to the community. From last year, this is in August, and I'm guessing that Tim was probably a happy man with this picture. A couple of other pictures, you know, Lorenzo is all, oh, yes. Question?
Go back to the one, 2 slides back, where that one, and where it says teachers receive $25 gift card. Oh, that was a gift card, but they received $75 worth.
Absolutely. So Steve's point was they didn't just receive a $25 gift card. They actually they were able to go in and get $75 worth of supplies, and then they also received a $25 gift certificate. We actually received, I think, a generous donation from an unknown source of like $10,000 or $15,000. I don't remember the exact amount, that enabled us to also generously donate the $25 gift card. So a lot of wonderful things, and here we have, you know, Phil Manor, and then of course Allison Worthy, that many of you might know, having been the chair of the Public School Foundation. Quarterly litter pickups. Now I would ask you to just take a look at the left photograph. This is the first time that we have had someone who was not yet a member of the Rotary Club join us in a litter pickup. Marcus, where are you? He is now a member. Thank you. And then on the right, you know, we had our mayor, Jess Anderson, join us, and she was pretty thrilled about the opportunity. Let me quickly keep going through here because Jim is going to give me a hook in a minute. But a lot of litter we have picked up, and we have literally filled thousands of bags. But this organization is making a significant contribution to our community and a difference. Then the Ryla Youth Programs, I just want to highlight not only Ryla, but we now have Interact Hubs, not only at East Chapel Hill High School, but also at Carborough High School, which of course is where we're having our recycling pickup tomorrow. And there are currently 8 young individuals who will be participating in Ryla this spring, which is the Rotary Youth Leadership Academy. And we've had some of the interactors get involved with us on litter pickups, which is wonderful. Then let's move to solar and the incredible things that have been taking place in Hillsborough. And so these are some of the pictures of the houses with solar panels on them, the different occasions that have taken place. Liz Hankey actually recruited her son and daughter-in-law to be from Salt Lake City to help do some of the plantings at these houses also, which is pretty extraordinary. We've done habitat builds, a lot of smiling faces here, some sore muscles. And then you might remember under Omar's term as president, that's when the recycling started. We looked at doing the tech recycling, and Karen has been leading that charge for us. And this is when we were over at the Sheridan, and people brought things to the Sheridan. We took them upstairs, and then we took them back downstairs. So that was the first year. Then last year, second year, it was a torrential downpour. But this team still came forward and did some incredible work. So now where are we? We're at year 3. And as Karen said, tomorrow at Carborough High School from 1 to 4. And here are the things that you can bring. And we've got a lot of people I know who are participating and a lot of people in the community involved too. Building beds with other organizations is something else we've done. So that's just a quick summary to share with you. Here are a few things that we certainly have an opportunity to celebrate and the incredible work that everybody in this club has been involved in. So what I'd ask you to do is give yourself a round of applause and then please stand.
Linda, can you share that slideshow with everyone? I mean, I'm probably not alone in being asked like one of the.
I'd be delighted to share it. You bet.
Thank you, Linda, for giving us a recap of our amazing service projects. I'll make it short. We've had all the announcements. Tomorrow is a big day for the green team. I'd like you to watch out for the service and sign up events so that you can participate in our amazing programs. Without further ado, I would like to invite New Hebner to come and introduce our guest speaker.
So, because our program today is about aging, they've chosen an old person to introduce our speaker. And so I've got a half-minute for you in your Rotary Primes, half-minute lesson on time management. And the most important lesson you can learn about dealing with old people is that when you greet us, you never say, "How are you?" It's much better to say, "Good to see you." If you say, "How are you?" what you then get is an organ recital. And usually about a half hour you should allocate for that. And let me tell you that if you ask me that, I can start from my toes to my hips to my hips. I've got this back thing going on. I've got a back in there. It's a little busyness in here. Now that would be a half hour that I would thoroughly enjoy, but that you would find completely miserable. So I think that we should just stop by bringing someone who you already know is completely qualified by looking at his spectacular biography. And let me bring in a true expert on aging. Would you please welcome Dr. James Chappel.
Is this now on? Can you hear me? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for the kind introduction.
Thank you so much for having me. This is an amazing organization. I don't know if this is the purpose of having these speakers, but I'll spread the gospel of the Rotary Club when I get back. And so yes, I was invited. I published a book about. I'm not selling it, but I'll show you. I published a book about aging in America in the last century or so. Although it is available wherever fine books are sold. And yeah, so I was invited here to talk about it. There's been a lot of interest in the book. It's obviously a really important topic. Looking around here today, it doesn't look like it impacts you all directly, but one day it will, because we'll all get old eventually. And so, let me, I'm going to first talk some about like sort of why I wrote the book and some of the main findings of it. And then I'm going to focus on one aspect of it to talk to you for about 20 minutes today. So I have like a 45-minute book talk, and I realized, oh, they want 20 minutes. Well, I can just give it, but speak really fast. Or I can just focus on one element that I think is pretty topical and important. So for all of our benefits, I chose the latter path. So first I wanted to say why write a book about the history of aging. I have kind of professional and personal reasons for it. And the professional reasons are, you know, I'm a historian. I think that people want stories. I think that what human beings are storytelling animals. We want to understand what's going on around us in terms of some kind of narrative. And I think that kind of the thought game I play sometimes is I think, if there's a historian in 200 years, if such a thing still exists, and they look back at my lifetime and say, all right, what are the important things that happened? What's the important stuff of the 20th and early 21st century? There are a couple things I think that future historians would say. I think one thing they'll say is, oh, that's the time when we burned up all the fossil fuels and we created climate change. I also think people will say, oh, that's the time when the human lifespan doubled. I mean, not my lifetime, but in the last 100 years or so. That's kind of an amazing transformation in just like the shape of human life. If, you know, I think that sometimes like, if history is a kind of a building and individual people are like Lego blocks in that building, in the last century, the Lego block got twice as big. And what it is to be human has changed in a really profound way. And I think that a lot of what we see in the world today, a lot of the things you see in the news, the kind of budget crunches that are hitting so many societies, a lot of this has to do with this demographic shift, with declining birth rates, with expanding lifespans. I think it creates just a very different world in the 21st century that I think we have to pay a lot more attention to. And as I was thinking about this, I thought, okay, I'm a historian. I want to read some books about this. I want to read some history books about this. And there kind of isn't, or wasn't. It's not that no one in the university does it. There are 100 people at Duke who study aging. 100 people at UNC who study aging. But they're in the medical school. Or they're in the nursing school, they're in the social work school. We didn't have a story about aging, about how we got here, about the different kind of answers that Americans have given to the question of age, about the meaning of age. And I think that's a problem. I think that one thing historians can do is provide a narrative to understand the transformations we're living through. So, you know, talk about climate change. There's a lot of books out there about like history of the carbon and Exxon and attempts to combat climate change and things like that. Like racial inequality, 1,000 books about this. But aging, at least historically, very, very few. And so I wanted to kind of contribute, you know, use my little pen to contribute something by writing this book. I also had a kind of personal reason, which, and then this might be different from, I'm 41. Those of you who are older might have had a different experience, but I when I was thinking about this book, I was getting ready to turn 40. And I felt, the anthropologists tell us that one of the things that human societies do is they provide a sort of script for what you're supposed to do at different parts of your life. As a young person, you're supposed to go to school and make friends and have your first kiss or whatever. There's a bunch of things you're supposed to do as a young person. As a middle-aged person, you're supposed to have kids, get a job, start going to the Rotary Club, buy an air fryer. Like, there's a bucket of things you're supposed to do as a middle-aged person. And as I was turning 40 and just looking ahead to the kind of second half of my life, knock on wood, I felt like, I don't really know what it's for. I don't know, now that I've had my kids, now that I'm, in my job, I don't know what this second act or second half of my life is for. I don't feel like American society is providing me a script for what the 40 to 80 or 60 to 80 period is supposed to look like. So I wanted to think historically about one of the different kinds of answers that American society has given to this question in the last 100 years. What is old age for? What were our first answers? How have the answers changed over time? And why is it that I'm not satisfied with the answers that at least people my age are being given today? So those are a lot of the things that I tried to do in the book. I'll tell you just roughly how it's structured, and then I'll hone in on one part I want to talk about today. I decided to structure it around historians pay a lot of attention to language and how we define, how we describe a problem. The words we use matter so much, right? Global warming and climate change are kind of different. So when I thought, okay, what are the terms people use to refer to older people? 100 years ago, the term that was used was the aged, or the aged and infirm. Not a very attractive term. Not one that I think most of you would like to be called, the aged and infirm, however accurate it might be. And because 100 years ago, the whole point of the conversation about age was to say, this is a needy population that needs help. And so there was a very stigmatizing ideal of old age that was created. And that leads to the emergence of Social Security in 1935. Social Security was supposed to help the aged and improve their quality of life, keep them out of poverty, things like that. So a big part of the book about the aged. After World War II, for reasons you can imagine, older people prefer not to be called the aged and infirm anymore. They prefer to be called senior citizens, right? So the second half of the book is about, or the second part of the book, is about roughly 1940 to 1975, when this idea of the senior citizen is really the hegemon. It's the way that surveys showed that older people prefer to be called a senior citizen. And it sounds like so weird and old-fashioned now, I think. It's mainly a kind of discount program, not an identity that you are proud of. But for a little bit, it was that. I think that one of the things I try to do in the book is say, one of the big stories about post-45 American history is lots of different groups are trying to claim citizenship. The civil rights movement is about Black Americans claiming citizenship. I think second wave feminism is largely about women claiming full citizenship. And I think seniors wanting to be called senior citizens is sort of older people saying, we belong in this country. We have as many rights as anyone else. And so it's this period. It's after Social Security, older people have more resources, they're getting pensions from their jobs, and we're getting the retirement as a expectation in American life for the first time, is when you see the senior citizen emerging as this identity to be proud of. But then something else happens. There's a reason why you don't see senior citizens around so much anymore. Well, you see a lot of them around, but you don't see that phrase used as much anymore. Because the phrase that's used now, and the one that I've been using, because I too am a product of history, is older people. people say that's currently the term of art, like by geriatricians and gerontologists and things like that. This happened around 1980. People don't want to be called senior citizens anymore. They want to be called older people because the senior citizen comes to seem very stigmatizing. And they want to say that the energy is to say, older people are just like younger people. We can do whatever younger people can do. We should be able to work, travel, do service projects, do whatever it is. Older people can do them too. We're not senior citizens. Don't classify us like that. And this is an era of a great struggle against ageism. So in a lot of ways, that was a very successful struggle. So the third part of the book is kind of about the era we're in now of older people. And I pay a lot of attention to like the Golden Girls as a show, which I think is where, like, kind of ground zero for this new ideology of older people. So that's kind of the arc, and it ends with like also some of what I think are the problems and the downsides of this new hegemony of older people as a category, which we can talk about in the Q&A if anyone's interested. So that's kind of the arc of the book. The part I want to talk about today for about 10 minutes, there's lots of threads in there about history of nursing homes, Medicare, Medicaid, retirement facilities, things like that, retirement communities. The thread I want to pull on, someone mentioned Elon Musk earlier. I don't want to talk about him specifically, but I've been thinking a lot about Social Security. And Social Security is a big part of the book. Social Security is currently, I don't know what the right word is, it's under threat, let's say. And I think it might be worthwhile to spend a few minutes thinking historically about Social Security and where it comes from, why it might be kind of in the crosshairs today. So there are a few things. I mean, you all, I imagine, know the basics of Social Security. It is part of the New Deal. It's passed by Franklin Roosevelt in 1935. The first benefits start to be paid in 1939. It is a system of social insurance in which, you know, a tax comes out of your paycheck, which goes into like a fund, and it is paid out to, you know, and in fact, sometimes the ideology is you're putting the money in a little bank account for you to get when you're older. Sometimes Social Security is explained that way. As most of you probably know, that's not how it works. How it works is the money that comes out of your paycheck, or my paycheck, goes directly to current older people. And the amount you get back is a little bit dependent on what you put in and things like that. This is a system we're all quite familiar with. And there are three kind of things to say, and I'll just say quick, I think it's an amazing program. I love Social Security. As an American historian, I can say it's one of the kind of small list of, I think, unvarnished great things the American government did in the 20th century. And as a relatively youngish person, I look forward to Social Security. It's one of the few kind of promises that American society makes to me. I feel like things like my education, my health, like all those things are kind of up to me. But when I hit 67, maybe I'll get some Social Security. So I think it's a wonderful promise. Social Security, in case you don't know, is also the biggest poverty reduction program we have. It keeps 22 million people a year, mainly, but not only, above 65, out of poverty. So Social Security is an amazing program. And so I'll give you a couple of sort of, I guess, historical nuggets or historical things that might interest you about Social Security. One is that Social Security was one option out of many in the 1930s. It's been around for a long time, and so it seems very natural to us. But in fact, there was nothing natural about it at all. There were lots of ideas. It's done differently in different countries. Some of you know. Even in the 1930s, there were lots of ideas on the table. The Social Security was kind of a moderate compromise position in response to more radical ideas about old age pensions. And I'll mention two of them. One, the book makes a big deal about what I see as the first movement for old age pensions in America, which is it's called the Ex-Slave Pension Association. A lot of it was in North Carolina. Because think in the 1920s and 1930s, who is the neediest population of older people? It's the formerly enslaved. Or people who were born during Reconstruction and their parents were slaves. And they are living, you know, you can read accounts of, in the 30s, the government sent around people to interview formerly enslaved people. Mainly they're talking about their conditions in slavery. But in the margins of the interviews, you can see like how wretched their lives are. They're like living on 1 acre dirt plots, like in rural areas in North Carolina, with no electricity, no water, nothing. And so this is a very needy population. And so the Ex-Slave Pension Association was saying, well, if we're going to give old age pensions, it should go to them first. Because they worked for free. Remember, Social Security, it's based on wage earners. You know, you make wages, you pay some money in, you get some money out. These people had not been able to do that. And so the Ex-Slave Pension Association wanted to use old age policy as a form of racial reparations. And what I think is quite interesting, it obviously doesn't work. And you know, America being what it at least was, the leaders of it are put in jail. But I think it's worth remembering this moment when old age policy had this anti-racist component. The other one, which maybe you have heard of, is what's called the Townsend Plan. So the Townsend Plan, this is like one of the great forgotten schemes in American history. This actually had millions of supporters all across the country, black and white. There were train loads of mail going to Congress and the president in support of this plan. What the Townsend Plan was, it was an idea to use old age policy to solve the Great Depression. How can you do that? Well, he says, Francis Townsend is this kind of like quack physician, and he comes up with this idea, like in the back of an envelope, and it explodes. And so the idea is, well, we've got a ton of unemployment, and those jobs are never coming back. Sounds kind of familiar. And why don't we do this? Why don't we take all the unemployment and give it to older people, like anyone over 62, he says, has to stop working. So that'll free up jobs for everyone who's younger. And all those people who are over 62 who have stopped working, we're going to give them pensions. Huge pensions. In today's money, he wanted to give $5,000 per month per person.
Wow.
So that'd be, if you're in a married couple, that's $10,000 a month for everyone. Totally universal. But there's a catch, which might not seem like a catch. The catch is you have to spend the money that month. And the idea is, well, if we get a bunch of older people and give them like buttloads of money and force them to spend it, that'll save the economy. And they even did some schemes where they like found some older people and like gave them all this money, and they're like, let's see what they do with it. And they're like buying cars and fur coats and all these things. This wacky plan, but it's got huge support, including from younger people, you know? And so historians actually think that Social Security emerges, at least in part, because Roosevelt knows that idea, as Year-Laughter, you know, kind of presumed, knows that idea is lunacy. But he also has to do something. And so Social Security emerges as kind of a much more moderate vision for old age policy. It's a kind of a moderate compromise position. And I mention that because, you know, in the climate of 2025, it sometimes can seem like Social Security is some kind of, I don't know what, far left entitlement policy or something like that. And at its origins, it wasn't at all. In fact, old age advocates were kind of disappointed by Social Security. There are a lot of problems with Social Security. It doesn't cover everyone. And when it started, it covered a very small group of people because the way it collects the taxes is so complicated. People who did domestic labor, agricultural labor, people who do unpaid labor at home, like as a mother, none of these people are making Social Security. The other problem with Social Security is that, from my progressive perspective, the whole design of the system is to reproduce inequality. Because, you know, the richer you are, the more you get out of Social Security. That's the design of the system. There are other systems that are more egalitarian than that. So just to say that Social Security was a moderate kind of compromised plan. I have two other kind of briefer historical lessons to say about Social Security. So even though, well, no, I'll start with it this way. I'll start with this one. Social Security was controversial at first, but between about the 40s and the 80s, it had regular bipartisan support. It was a very popular program. It remains a very popular program. One reason why is that, you know, part of the genius of Social Security is that it's not part of the general taxation system. And so it's not ripe for cuts every budget. I mean, it's like a totally separate enterprise. It's a totally separate administration, pot of money, everything. That was kind of Roosevelt's idea, was to depoliticize Social Security. And that has kept it from, you know, being in danger every year when the government shuts down or whatever. And so it was a popular program, had a lot of bipartisan support. The biggest expansion of Social Security was actually under Richard Nixon. It's Nixon who he raises benefits a lot and also indexes benefits to inflation, which happens in the early 70s. As you might know, inflation about 5 minutes later started to skyrocket. I mean, a big problem for Social Security. But it was, so that's just to say it has bipartisan support. And also in the first couple of decades of its existence, it was led by kind of very respected civil servants who did it for like 15 years. And so it would be someone who is involved with the creation of Social Security under Republican and Democratic presidents. It was the same people running Social Security in a very kind of efficient, respected way. That was sort of the history of Social Security up until about the 1980s. As you know, we live in a bit of a different moment now. It is, I should say, still a very respected and well-regarded program that does a lot even beyond pay benefits. Because, you know, Social Security does things with disability, and also even in terms of like some natural disasters. I was reading about how with Hurricane Katrina, it was the Social Security officers were some of the first ones down there to make sure that everybody who was affected by Katrina was getting their Social Security payments, and also taking care of people with disabilities. And so to have a well-funded, well-functioning Social Security system is really important in this country. And the last thing I'll say, and this is kind of relevant to why I'm talking about Social Security at all, is that there has always been a kind of undercurrent of critique of Social Security, which at some moments has blossomed and at some moments has been kind of hidden. People start calling Social Security a Ponzi scheme as early as like the 1950s. And people have been saying for 70 years now, oh, you're never going to get your Social Security. This is an insolvent system. It doesn't make any sense. It's a Ponzi scheme, et cetera, et cetera. And there's been a big kind of PR campaign against Social Security. There have been several efforts to undermine Social Security or to privatize Social Security. So far, these have failed. You all might remember that Ronald Reagan tries to kind of cut benefits and some things in the early 80s. Big mistake. It cost him a big deal in the 82 midterm elections. And also more recently, George W. Bush spent like all of his post 9/11 political capital trying to privatize Social Security, and it also fails. But I'm just reminding you of this because there has been an effort to undermine, critique, and privatize Social Security for a long time. And it is, I guess, potentially bearing fruit now. So when you see Elon Musk calling Social Security a Ponzi scheme, it's this trope that we've seen kind of played out for 50 years. So far, Social Security has been able to withstand that. But I will say there's things that have been happening that are kind of worrisome, even before the last couple of months, where in the kind of austerity regime we're used to now in American politics, things like the Social Security Administration, the budget's been cut. They've been understaffed for a long time. This undercuts public support for Social Security. If you have to wait on the phone for 3 hours, maybe you're less supportive of the program. And I think this is partially on purpose. You can actually look back after Reagan's attempt to cut benefits in the early 80s fails. economists, kind of conservative economists, they publish an article called something like a Leninist scheme to undercut Social Security. And their idea is basically, we are going to use every means we can to delegitimize this program in the American mind so that we can start to cut it. And so it's been a long-standing effort and dream, and I do feel kind of concerned that we are living in a moment where that dream might come to reality. I guess I just want to remind, we can turn to Q&A in a second. I just want to remind you that, so, you know, from the perspective of a 41-year-old person with little kids, like Social Security is a promise. Like Franklin Roosevelt thought, we should make a promise to our older people that we will not abandon them. They will have some kind of income support in their old age. And for 90 years, we have been meeting that promise. It's one of the few promises we get from the American state. And so I hope that, I don't know, I imagine this is a friendly audience for this, but I hope we can work together to defend it. And that is one of the messages of the book. The book, and I guess the last thing I'll leave you with is, we're living in a world with as I said, go back to what I said at the beginning. Is that my sign? It's probably my signal to end. But someone calling and say, why is he talking so long? We live in a totally different age pyramid than any human society has had before. We need to be having very hard conversations about how do we pay for this, especially how do we pay for long-term care. These are really hard conversations. And to me, one of the most depressing parts of the present moment is that we're having, instead of having a new conversation about how to get ready for aging in the 21st century, we're having an old conversation about the legitimacy of a 90-year-old program. And I just find that, I don't know what, depressing. Sometimes historians are depressing people to bring to talk to your lovely group. But so that's all I have to say. I'm not happy to answer any questions, either about like the broader things in the book or about the things I talked about today. Thanks a lot.
A couple of questions about generational equity. It's really nice to see that you mentioned Richard Nixon, 1970 entitlement to Social Security to inflation then. If we had tied the minimum wage to inflation at the same time, you're probably aware it would now be about $28 an hour, about $60,000 a year. We have school teachers, nurses, sanitation workers in this state making considerably less. I don't see the generational equity there. And as I approached retirement 16 years ago, I took a look at what I had contributed to Social Security and what I expected to draw from it. And there is no way there's any rate of return that justifies what I'm getting.
Because you're getting too much or getting too little?
Too much.
Yeah.
And the statistics I see say that we're leaving every generation that follows us poorer than we were at that age. Baby boomers are the first generation to make that claim. How is that fair? How can that go on? I mean, I don't see it happening for my children.
Yeah, so I mean, those are very, very fair points. I think from an actuarial perspective, and one thing I would say is that it's true that Social Security is in need of reform because of changes in what we call the dependency ratio of, you know, fewer workers, more retirees, and so on. I guess what I would say is that the fact that it needs reform often turns into a kind of, it's a Ponzi scheme, it's no good, it won't be there for my kids. I'm not saying you did that, but I hear that a lot. And the reforms it needs are not that big. So for instance, like, when Social Security is going to run out of money in about 2033, what that means is not that payments will go to zero, it means that payments will drop by about a quarter. And because it's a self-sustaining system, right? Right now, you know, my money goes to some of you right now. You're welcome. And so, but it's also supplemented by this kind of trust fund that has been built up over the years. That trust fund's going to run out. You're still going to get my money. And but it won't be supplemented anymore, so your payments will go down by about a quarter. So Social Security is not going to disappear unless someone kills it. So that's one thing. So there are ways. There are bills in the House right now that some combination of raising the retirement age by a year or two and raising the taxes by a little bit, or removing the income threshold for Social Security taxation. You're only taxed up to whatever it is. Yeah. So there are ways to fix the program. The other thing I'd say about generational equity, it's a completely fair point. One of the things that made Social Security's passage in the 1930s so weird is that older people were not at all the neediest population in 1935. It was children. It's still children. And so it's true that older people have been in some ways unfairly generously treated by the American welfare state. I guess the thing I'd say about it is I think it's a mistake, and these generational equity arguments have been around for a long time. They're powerful arguments. I think it's a mistake to think about Social Security and Medicare as entitlements for older people as a special interest group. Because if you look at who was actually pushing, like the Congress that passed Medicare was one of the youngest Congresses in American history. Young people love Medicare. Why? Not because they're thinking ahead for themselves. It's not something that we really do that much. It's because they're worried about their parents. And again, not because they love their parents, but because without them, without Medicare, you fall and break a hip. Whose house are you living in? My house. I don't want you in my house. So it's middle-aged people who really support these programs, and they are sold at the time as being for me. Because my mom had a fall 2 months ago. She's probably had $200,000 in surgery, all Medicare. Without Medicare, where's that coming from? It's coming from me. And I can't do it. I'm giving my money to you. So I guess I would urge us to remember that these old age benefits are benefits for everybody, including for middle-aged people.
Okay, you mentioned several sliding scales. People are
Yeah, but turn the mic up.
people are getting older.
I'm not sure it's on.
And,
Felix, help me.
right.
All can just press the same button we're pressing.
I just say it loud.
Speak up.
I can repeat it back for everybody.
Okay, this one is working, so we'll use this while we're getting it one fixed. So
We'll make sure we get it.
My question for you is, it seems to me that the biggest question for Social Security is that people, quote unquote, making the decisions no longer need it as much as they might have in the past. Do you have any sense of what the percentage of Social Security income is relative to how much it costs to live when you're 65 or 70, at least in the people that are making the decisions? It's going to affect everybody else.
Wait, are you saying that older people now in general don't need Social Security, or the people in Congress passing the laws don't get it?
Well, it's a little bit of both. It's that people who are now 65, maybe they get $50,000 a year out of Social Security, but maybe they draw another $100,000 a year out of their pension. So that Social Security is only a third of what they draw.
Yeah.
And so my question is that the biggest risk really? Because not only the people receiving it, but really the people making the decisions, the congressmen, the senators, they're not living off of Social Security.
That's right.
And so I guess I kind of get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I want to make sure that this person gets his question. But I'll respond. But it's a version of what I think you are saying. It is one of the injustices of Social Security. It is in some ways an injustice that Elon Musk is going to get Social Security when he's old, and that's crazy. I'm paying for his retirement, and you might say, oh, it should go to the people who are the poorest. The problem, at least in this country, is that when you target benefits to needy populations, just called a means-tested benefit, that is the kind of thing that gets cut. And that's what Medicaid is. And so Medicaid is cut all the time. Medicare, a universal benefit, is much safer. And so while it is totally unfair that the retired surgeons in here are getting my meager historian's paycheck, that is the only reason that the program is sustainable politically, because it is viewed as a universal benefit rather than something that is for only the poor.
Okay,
You try it again. How's it going?
Right.
Yeah.
I've heard people talking about Congress has raided Social Security and taken money out of it, but I haven't seen any details on that. Is that the case? And the other question is, you know, if people are getting older, people are also working longer,
yes,
and they're raising the age. It's still not evening out right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in terms of rating Social Security, there are other people here who probably know better than me. I don't think so. I don't think you're allowed to touch the Social Security Trust Fund for other things. There have been some politicians who have wanted to, who wanted to rate it to like close the deficit or something like that, but I don't think they've successfully done so. And in terms of, you're definitely right, people are working longer, partially because they want to and partially because they might have to. And people are living longer at the same time. And I mean, you're right, that's the nub of the problem, is that the number of years post-labor has been going up, you know, and so they haven't evened out exactly. And so that's what's creating the fiscal crunch right now.
So I have a question. There's a term you didn't use, which pisses me off about saying it. Is geriatric?
Yeah.
So as a retired medical doctor, okay, what? Surgeon, yeah.
You're welcome.
No, yeah, but understand how many people when I was working, how many people I took care of when I was out. So
yeah.
Goes both ways. But my question is, if everything is relative, like you're talking about 41, and you ask most people if we feel old, we don't feel old. Mm-hmm. Age is not how we really feel, chronologically. But when I was in my 30s, you read medical articles, and the doctors here will attest to this, you'll read some of the geriatric patients of those over 60, right? Yeah. And you'll see one that says, we took all these geriatric patients in our study over 65, and you're still sort of sitting there. So at 40, yeah, I agree with that. I thought 65 was old. Yeah. Now I'm close to 70, and I think so. The question is, like, I think, you know, we look at chronologic age and how we feel, which is two totally different things. Yeah. But the medical literature talks about geriatric patients. Yeah. We're geriatricians now to take care of older patients. So the question is, when did this geriatric nonsense start?
I mean, that's a good question to you. Like, I have a question for you, because of course I understand what you mean from like a values perspective. It's like you're as old as you feel. And geriatrics has been around for a long time. In fact, like around I think 1912, and it's based, of course, on pediatrics. Is when you first see geriatrics as a specialty. Do you think, so while you don't feel 70, do you think, like, but you are 70, right? And like, do you think as a physician, do you actually think that your body is not, like, do you think there's not an important shift that happens between 55
I think
and
there's
70?
things I can't do or can't do as well as I did before. Mm-hmm. And I think most of us will say when we finally got around to retiring, it's because we didn't function the way we did before, or we just didn't want to function. I mean, part of it is the desire to still work. A lot of us could physically do it, but didn't psychologically or mentally want to do it. Mm-hmm. So, do we feel our age? Most of us probably don't. Yeah. I mean, if you ask someone who had a bad hip arthritis and knee arthritis and you get a total hip or total knee replacement, they'll say they feel better than they did before. Mm-hmm. But I guess there is this stigma, and probably in the lay literature as well, that geriatric patients are the problem. The fact that modern medicine is keeping people alive for longer, and keep people alive for longer, then you're paying for some of those people to be in hospice or whatever. Yeah. But my only question is, like, geriatric seems to be, at least for me, a derogatory term, but yes, it's very prevalent.
Yeah, very prevalent. It's interesting. It's one of the whole challenges of this research we've been talking about old age is, on the one hand, you absolutely do want to honor what he's saying. Like, if you're 17 years old and you feel great, you should be able to do whatever you want. On the other hand, to be an older person clearly is a category in some ways of, you know, you're not as spry as you used to be. You have more illnesses, more likely to have had a hip replaced. And to hold the reality of aging, I know 40-year-olds had a hip replaced. You know, like, how to hold the reality of aging with the kind of more humanist perspective that he's suggesting is very hard.
You know, I just can't help but say,
I think that I might be in trouble.
last night, I wanted him to be. You know, I'm 92, about going on 93. I'm still active, and I just consider I'm a young person running around in an open car, and all the bullshit about worrying about what age I am, I've never wasted much time on that. Life is this wonderful smorgasbord, and you go out and wholeheartedly, and the hell with anybody telling you what you need to do, what you should be doing at any age, and I've done that all my life. And there's only several things I avoid. One is old thinking people. And the other is, I know I'm doomed if I ever play my first game of bingo.
I see there's another question, but I was told that it is an important tradition that you end at 2 o'clock. It's 1:59. Okay.
I'm too rapidly approaching 76. I'm still working by choice and supporting all these old farts in the room.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much for coming. Have a nice weekend and go Heels.
Yes. How does the membership process work?
Our chair.
Or I could I did not, but here's, if you could use your photo, this is my LinkedIn. That's me, yeah. Just connect.
The other thing I forgot.
What's the, oh,
is stay away from the You're going to get a whole bunch of
Admiral, nice to see you.
No, Captain.
I left the Navy when I was still able to do things for myself. Hey, thank you for being here. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Three? Okay.
Well, you must have a lot of participation. Because you can't do all this.
Yeah.
Just set this next to the box, okay?
Oh, yeah.
What is the vote? Just in
Excellent lunch.
No?
Excellent lunch. Those were the very best mashed potatoes I've ever had. Just
How you doing, sir? Steve?
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
So, you're paying for me, are you?
That's great.
My treat.
Thank you, sir.
Remind us all of it.
So keep me in mind when you're our next social foray. You doing okay?
Yeah.
Your week's been? How's your week been?
So it's every Friday.
Myrtle Beach. It was good stuff. It was still service to me. I don't have a reason to I was not inactive as far as preparing stuff from the office to
Say goodbye to Felix there.
Yes. If you just like scan this.
Bobby's heart, but I couldn't identify it at the time.
Well, catch you next
weekend. You too.
I sent a message to the cost meeting website, but I don't know. Oh, you don't have LinkedIn. Never mind.
I have LinkedIn, but so I can find you. What's your name?
relax right now.
Yeah.
That's why I ended up with